Hi everyone, you're listening to Three Makes Baby with me, your host, Jana Repnow, the author of Three Makes Baby and a fertility counselor specializing in third-party reproduction. If you've been listening for a while, then you know I interview parents that are struggling with infertility and donor-conceived adults talking about their experience being donor-conceived. We touch on some controversial topics in this podcast, and we talk about some hard stuff sometimes, but always here to be supportive and to be loving. Welcome to the show. Hi everyone, just me today. I want to share some important messages. Lots going on in the donor conception community. The topic of sperm donation has hit the media, and it's kind of been all over. The topic of anonymity and the donor conceived person's perspective. So it's good to see that we're talking about this. What I want to share today with you is more of a reaction, though, to a recent podcast that I watched called Donor. I didn't watch it, I listened to it. Called Donor 9623. And I will just give you all a warning that recipient parents, donor conceived people, if this is a hard listen for you, I would assume it's going to be a pretty tough listen. But it is such a great inside look at what has happened in this field over the years and what has not happened, more importantly. I don't want to give away the ending of the podcast, so I'm going to talk about a topic today, but I'm going to encourage you to listen to the podcast. And then when you listen to it, I want you to come back to this episode because you're going to want to reflect on this again after you listen to the podcast. So for starters, I listened to this over the period of about 2 weeks. And I have to tell you, I did have to take a break. I had to take a break probably about halfway through because it was just disturbing to the point that I needed a break. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And I would just compare that to the mid part of a movie, the conflict part, the quest part, that where there's just a lot of tension and a lot of bad things happening, and it's unpleasant, it's uncomfortable. But I came back to it because it's so well produced, for one. And as I would come back into it, each episode I was more and more excited to listen to until the final episode, which is incredible because it's with, don't skip ahead, it's with the donor himself. So what I want to share is I don't want to spoil anything for you. I want you to listen to it, come back. But I want to say that the last episode I was in tears, and I just listened to it today, so it's very fresh. And it was so moving because we landed on what he landed on is that donors are not villains or heroes, as they are painted to be heroes by sperm banks and possibly villains by people that don't understand. But they are complex people, humans with flaws, humans with strengths, humans that have overcome. And by not revealing who these people are to the children that are born from them, through them, they become these larger than life entities. They become either a hero or a villain, and they become very polarized characters. So that is what in the adoption community they call the fantasy family, or the fantasy mother, the fantasy father, the fantasy parent. And that fantasy is this young child's mind. They imagine that this is an incredible person and they have this amazing life. Children are very imaginative. They go through that stage. And without a real person to get to understand, to come to know, it's hard to imagine the complexity of that human being. And I know one of the biggest fears when donor conceived people are searching for a genetic parent is they're afraid of rejection, but they're also afraid of what they're going to find. Like, who is this person? Is this person going to be bad? Is this person going to be good? Is this person going to be like in jail or a criminal or a murderer? And so there's this fear that takes over. And that is because they haven't had the opportunity to get to know this person over the years and see them as a real person. They are a larger than life mystery person. And that mystery person becomes very polarized in a person's mind. So that is why having a known person helps your child to realize that this is a real person. They have flaws, they have strengths, they have things they're good at, they have things they're bad at. They're not one or the other, they're both. And that, I think, is what you're going to find from listening to this podcast as well. So go check it out. I'm excited to say we are starting the very first ever 3 Makes Baby workshop tonight with recipient parents that are both expecting and have children. And I'm so excited about this conversation. It's going to be parent education. We're going to learn some things. And if you want to be part of another workshop in the future, be sure to go to the links in my bio on Instagram and sign up so you can be notified of that next workshop that I'm hopefully going to be able to keep doing. And also, if you want to sponsor this podcast, if you're a company and you would like to have a little spot on the podcast, you can also reach out to me or info@3makesbaby.com. If you're a parent and you would like a question answered on this podcast, you can also offer your support by going to the links in my Instagram bio and donating and asking your question to help keep the podcast going. Have a great day.